So, Gadge, you alerted me to this fine piece of army equipment at our local army surplus store.
Yeah, it was lurking around in Anchor Supplies, and I thought, I know a man who'd like that.
So we thought we'd, one, pick it up and show it to you, and two, it got us thinking about a topic we've been discussing on and off in the pub, which is modifications that soldiers make to their kit to make it better suit them. So we're going to discuss that in this episode. Right, Gadge, so this is South African Defence Force Pattern 83 battle jacket, or a SAV vest, as it's kind of more commonly known.
It looks like it's an original one, not a copy as well.
No, it's definitely an original South African version. It looks, but it's also been very, very heavily modified by what must be a British soldier, given the pouch on the front, and they've clearly used and loved it and had it changed and taken out on operations. It's been spray painted. It's faded now, but it's covered in green and brown and black spray paint. And
it's clearly anything that wasn't useful just got taken off.
Yeah.
Or replaced.
So a few immediate modifications spring to mind. So there was if you remember, SAV vests have a utility pouch on here.
Yeah.
That's been taken off. You can still see some of the, quite crudely. We're guessing they were a right-handed shooter, must have been with an SA-80 anyway. Yeah. So they'll be lying on their left hip. There's a 2-cell pouch on this side normally, but that's been taken off. And interestingly, a water bottle, PLC water bottle pouch has been sewed on. It's quite a handy size for a set of TAMs though. So
it's also a great place to keep your water bottle though if you're running around and doing things quickly.
True, but it seems like a really strange mod. They changed these straps out, or they just reattached them in a different place. It looks like these were cut off at some point and this was changed. Maybe they dug in over here or something, I don't really know. Minor mod, but they did paint a little Red Cross symbol.
On both sides?
On both sides.
So you must have field dressings in either one of those,
yeah.
I thought,
So I'm pretty sure it must have been deployed at some point due to that. These can be quite annoying, this attachment on a normal
There's
battle
normally
jacket.
tons of elastic, isn't there?
Far too much extra strap. So that's been sewn down. It's really interesting because it's done in different ways. This has been like hand tacked in place. These have been done with a machine. This would have had to be done with a machine.
Yeah, otherwise it'd just rip off, wouldn't it?
I won't spin it round, but I'll show you an inset. The SAV vest comes with a 2-cell kind of small hydration bladder, stroke radio pouch on the back.
That's been razored off, hasn't it?
And that's been taken off as well. Probably so they can wear a day sack.
I'd have thought so, yeah.
Or a Bergen over the top without it getting crushed. And there's a little helmet ring, there's a little grenade pull here, probably to take their helmet or something when they weren't using it. But really,
you've got this big utility pouch here with an ammo pouch on the side, haven't you, as well? So
yeah, these are standard on the vest. You get these massive, and these were built to take the South African massive water bottles. Interesting.
I like how they kept that little bit there though, as a map pocket.
Yeah,
probably get something in there as well. I thought it's quite a long sleeve.
Yeah, so it's it's clearly been very well thought out. And you've still got a bit of sniper tape.
Now our theory is that's probably something like Parachute Regiment or similar, because in most line infantry companies you wouldn't get away with wearing one of those.
So someone of the more
something a bit faster than
the speed units of the British Army. Yeah.
You do see Paras wearing them a lot in Kosovo.
Yeah.
In the Balkans, so it looks perfectly appropriate for that sort of like late 90s kind of era to me.
It does, yeah. So we thought it was a really interesting bit of kit, particularly with this case, because the original item is from a completely different nation's army.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting example of modifying kit for your own needs, and specifically for your own needs.
Yeah.
But that's really common, this happens an awful lot.
I did exactly the same thing myself, Tom, so on a smaller scale, and I brought these to show you. Bear with me 1 second. When I was a TA or reservist soldier, the issue gloves were pretty crap. You got these gloves contact, which were like plastic bobbles over like sort of a nylon wool type glove, and you got some woolly gloves.
Oh, those things. Yeah.
Now I bought these. These are actually RAF pilots gloves.
Yeah.
And they're really good because they're a bit old now, but they're quite supple. So you can feel everything you're doing through them. But they've got quite a good bit of protection. You can see how many thorns and bushes and stuff that I've crawled through there on the palms.
Quite a long way up your arm as well.
They do. Now, interestingly, because they're pilot's gloves, part of like a whole flight suit, they actually have like a rubber like seal glued on the inside.
Gasket thing.
Yeah, so I cut that out because it was just annoying, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then I cut off the first 2 fingers and thumb on both hands, just to make it a little bit easier to use the weapons like controls, getting in and out of pouches, even tie a shoelace, that sort of thing, you know. And I just wore those because they worked, and I used them. Now I did find out that like this is one of the 2 types of gloves that was worn on Nimrod as well.
Okay. So Nimrod was the SES assault on the Iranian embassy.
Yeah. So I didn't even know they'd done that at the time. I was just a crow thinking, how can I protect my hands? I saw these in an army surplus shop, you know.
Okay. Mad, isn't it?
But again, you know, it's a very, very simple modification to a bit of kit that isn't even from my armour service. It's an RAF piece of kit, you know. Yeah. And doesn't look good, doesn't look pretty, but it works.
Yeah, and it's not, you've not done this with a...
I did it with a pair of scissors quickly, yeah.
You can tell it's not exactly a surgical cut. Yeah. It's, what's about right, hack, done.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I've asked my partner quite often, Joe, to modify some kit for me to make it look, I don't know, or Ali or something. And I almost struggle to get her to do it.
To do rough cuts.
To do rough cuts.
Yeah.
And we'll show you an example of just that right now. Right, so this is my 58 pattern webbing for Cold War Airsoft. And this is pretty different to the last time the viewers saw it, which was on our webbing walk a couple of years ago, where it was pretty much in completely stock configuration, or completely issue configuration. And I've now changed it to make it a lot more user-friendly for me. The biggest change probably is I took the kidney pouches off.
Yeah.
And I have a set of 4 water bottle pouches rather than the 2 larger kidney pouches. And they've all been sewn together.
All right, because you quite often see them like replaced with kidney pouches, but sewn together is quite nice to stop them moving around too much.
So the whole thing is done with zigzags. They're all sewn together with zigzag stitching. This is when I say my partner Jo does it way more nicely than you'd normally see.
You can even see the chalk marks where she's lined things up, whereas I would just literally just like bang a bit of needle and thread through it.
So that goes for all 4 pouches. We've also put another little loop through here.
To hold your bungee.
To hold my bungee. So the bungee also stops them bouncing around, and that's tethered in as well. And not only that, we've put elastic on.
So you can slam a bit of local foliage in.
If you look at our how to conceal yourself in the field video, we use those to ram it all in as well. So quite a lot of changes even just there, you know. So that's kind of the stitch and sewn stuff, and then for me that makes it much more convenient to use. I can spread the load; it doesn't bounce around as much. It also sits a bit lower, which is much nicer. And if we flip it around, so we also added, we've got an RAF heavy lift web strap, or a roll pin, as most people know it. So we added the roll pin buckle to that side, and on this side again we've sewn in. Which
was a super common fix back in the day.
Really common. It meant you could adjust your load. If you put a big clothing, lighter clothing over armour and not over armour. And that's been sewn in very neatly by Joe. So many different ways of attaching this.
I think the one I've got on my PLCE is riveted on. It's rusted.
A lot of them just riveted through these little loops. A lot of them just riveted straight through these eyelets here. We've sewn it on really nicely. And that, you know, it makes it a much more practical thing. And then,
You've got an Anvil clip for your helmet there.
I do.
Yeah, nice.
And then I found, now this isn't actually strictly period. I think this is very early original issue PLCE. So we're talking in the 90s.
Yeah.
But it's green. It looks super old, and it's a nice hit.
It looks kind of period appropriate.
It does. And when it's on, you can't really. And there were definitely pads made. They're super rare now, and people certainly. I spoke to a couple of old sweats, and they remember making their own out of roll mat and
roll mat and tape,
roll mat and tape and all sorts of stuff. So, and by the time it's on and it's green, you can't tell anyway. So you know, this is quite a long way from. And then a really simple thing like just taping a field dressing on, like I've seen a few people do. But it's quite a long way from the completely issue set of equipment. It's much more functional for me.
You put a 44 pattern water bottle pouch. It's easier to use with one hand. 2 of them in fact.
Yeah, one on each side. Lots of little simple things really, and then the bungee runs around and just loops through. So it's a really nice set of kit now. It's really quite comfortable. That's been fairly heavily customised. I've seen loads of different reference photos of people doing all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff to their webbing. So none of this isn't built from a single set. It's all bits from this one, bits from that one. But
And
it's all
again,
there.
this is built for your use in airsoft. So there's probably things, if you were a real soldier, that you'd want to change. You probably want to have maybe provision for your resi case or other things, but you're never going to need that in airsoft. So what you really want is water, magazines, pyro.
Yeah. If it was a real site, I'd probably have 3 on the back, and then give space for a resi case. And I've got a fairly big waist, so I can get away with having quite a lot.
Now, I know someone in the comments is going to tell me now that your respirator case shouldn't be attached to your webbing. Some units made you do it. Ours did.
So that's an example of that.
So we've just talked about modifying kit to such. Now, this is probably the most extreme modification of one bit of kit to another.
Yeah.
It's completely changing the form and purpose of this bit of kit.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is you're taking a parachute regiment parachute and you're making it into clothing.
I'm assuming there was something wrong with the parachute beforehand.
I don't know. I think they were just
randomly cutting holes and stuff in the rigging, rigging floor.
Hang on a second. So, a good friend of mine, a guy called Nige, who used to be in One Para years and years ago, gave me this. And this is a kind of like a windproof hoodie.
Yeah.
Made out of an old parachute, which is kind of like a rite of passage, I believe. They used to call them ZOOT suits.
Yeah.
And after you'd done your jumps or whatever, you were kind of like given some parachute material, told to run down to the regimental tailor, and he'd make you up a jacket. Some guys even had trousers made, which are apparently incredibly warm under your combats in winter. And again, it's it's a little bit worn these days. It's a bit rough.
Edges,
these hems aren't the greatest. You've got a split ring pull on a zip. Yeah, a little bit of that's a bit of old paracord in there or whatever. Yeah, same as in the cuffs are elasticated.
Actually, the rigging line
could well be.
I think that it looks like there's probably the rigging line from the parachute itself.
Yeah, and I've worn this on Cold War airsoft events, and it's really good. Yeah, I mean it's warm. It's not particularly waterproof because obviously it's showerproof.
It's actually quite breathable. This stuff.
Yeah,
as well.
And you can pack it down to about the size of a coat can.
Oh yeah, they go tiny. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can understand why these were quite desirable bits of kit. In fact, you can see it's worn a bit in the hood. I have to get Joe to have a look at that if you can.
I'll have to bribe the unit tailor with some pints.
So I think it's interesting that they've taken something that's not even a bit of clothing or combat kit, and they've gone, that parachute material, we've got tons of it, we can't use that one, maybe it's damaged or something like that.
Something gets damaged in a jump, they can't fix beyond repair.
Let's make something that's not only useful, but also kind of like a bit of a regimental thing, because I've never seen these outside of the parachute regiment, to be honest.
But this one's really cool because it is...
You've even got a little bit of a rigging stripe, Adidas 2-stripe on the side there.
Yeah. I think there's cord in there. Why would they have put...
I don't know. I think it's just a bit of trim.
Like, it could well be.
Just make it look nicer, you know?
Let's put a bit of paracord. Because paracord is basically...
rigging line.
Rigging line, parachute cord, paracord, it's rigging line from parachutes.
But this is actually, until I got some very technical layers recently, this was always my emergency packed away hoodie.
It's really cool.
So I got slightly better, more commercially made ones.
It's a really lovely example, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, that's my second example of custom kit.
So I've just thrown this up on the gear stand gadge.
Yeah, it's a unique bit of kit, that, isn't it, really?
So, as you know, I've been after a kind of Falklands era SAS windproof for a long time, but finding one in good condition, in my size, at anything under like 300 quid is just impossible, if you can even find one. Yeah. There's a lot of later windproofs, but the fabric is just kind of the wrong colour. You don't get this banding or the overprint that you do on this era. So this is my substitute. We've just finished it up, and it's a period Parker that we've done some mods on to make it look a lot more like an SAS or an Arctic windproof.
The Parkers are nice, don't get me wrong, and normally I wouldn't want to cut up something too historical, but they're limited use. You wear them to stand around at the start of a game day or whatever, or if in real life, probably if you're on sentry duty or whatever, you can't really run around in the buggers because you just sweat to death.
There's also still quite a lot of them. They're still quite freely available. I'm the same, I wouldn't normally do it, but I've got 3 in various sizes, and they're still 40, 50 quid, and they're still quite available because people don't really want them. Yeah. So we shortened it quite a lot because these normally come down to mid-thigh, as you can see. The main thing we've done is we've taken all the quilting out of the hood and reattached it, so it's now a lot lighter. And we've taken the peak off the hood and re-sewn it. I would say this is my partner Joe.
Are they a wired hood on those? I can't remember.
They did, they have a wired hood
with a little extension.
We took that whole extension off. We took all the quilting. Remember The hoods themselves have quilting in.
Yeah, the green quilting.
All of that's gone as well, and we've added.
Like a little hood retention strap.
We've taken the epaulettes off.
Yeah.
And we've put one of the epaulettes on here. I've done this quite a lot with some of my smocks, because I bought one that someone had done that mod already, and I really liked it. Just so you can fold, so you can roll your hood up and stow it away.
I see you've left the wrist attachment. As well. I quite like the wrist attachment.
Yeah, the wrist attachment's fine. It's actually better than a lot of them.
It's quite a nice. And again, those cuffs, those hems are quite nice, because like my actual SS smock, it's afraid to crap at the moment.
Yeah. So some of the bits on this are really quite useful, but it's not going to fool anyone from 2 feet away. If I did buy an authentic 1982 issue windproof smock and then trashed it,
you'd feel terrible.
I'd feel terrible, wouldn't I? Whereas this is really not a problem. And the fabric's a bit heavier than the real kind of gabardine ones, but again, it makes it a bit tougher. And it gives me a really nice kind of Cold War smock.
Yeah.
That I'm really happy of the right.
And again, going back to our theme today, it's about taking something that doesn't really do what you need it to do.
Yeah.
Cutting, sewing, taping, and making it into something that's actually more fit for purpose.
Yeah. And again, Jo's done her work on this, probably too high a standard, but that's her. That's what she does. And in fact, you remarked it almost looked like a trial or experimental smock now. Yeah. But it's got the right profile, it's got the right colour, and it's absolutely fine.
It's also quite nice as well. I noticed because you've kept a lot of this Velcro liner retention. You could put the sleeveless liner in there on a really cold day.
Yeah, and I've got a spare liner, so we're actually thinking about taking the arms off that, and then I've got I can just Velcro in an extra layer and keep it nice and warm. So a really nice kind of hybrid garment. And we've got just one more thing to show you.
So this next piece is something Tom and I have both had done by Jo for us for our Airsoft team. And it's one of those bits of kit that I've always liked, which is the Night Desert Camouflage Parka from the sort of like first Gulf War Operation Granby period. But the problem is, the actual items you get, both the trousers and the parka, are absolutely bobble use for playing Airsoft in. They're really big, they come down to about the knees.
Super long, aren't they?
Super long. The most annoying thing about them is that all these really cool looking pockets just go straight through. Yeah. Because originally you wear it over your uniform, So if you want to wear one as like kind of a Gucci tactical jacket, they're not that useful. Yeah. Until Jo gets her hands on them.
Parkas got really popular a while back. Yeah. I think it's because Marsoc started cutting about them.
Same with Woodland, isn't it?
So they pretty much recreate. Yeah. So they pretty much restarted the passion for American Woodland camo, and certainly for DNC. And you can buy new DNC cut
garments,
but that's kind of not very cool, though, is it? It's like not really the point. If you're going to do it, do what we've done here.
So what I liked most of all, Jo fixed the most major problem, which was the pockets. So again, some quite heavy duty stitched in pockets there. They're not going to hold magazines worth of real ammo, but they'll hold up what you need for Airsoft.
If you remember back, Gans, when we first started the channel, and we used to use a black tablecloth.
Yeah, is this the original tablecloth? And that was fix number one for me.
Yeah.
Fix number two would be the zip, because the way they button up, it's not the most convenient thing to throw on and off.
No, so we actually added a zip in there as well. We also
shortened the length. Yeah, so it's now more of a blouse kind of length.
Like a normal smock.
Yeah.
Now with that material, she built some actually really nice bellowed upper arm
Velcro raid
pockets.
type pockets. Yeah,
like a raid shirt.
Yeah.
So it made it a much more useful going down the pub jacket.
So I like mine as a going down the pub jacket, because if you know what it is, it's got that kind of like, that's kind of quite tactical. But if you don't, it just looks like kind of a weird fashion camo or something. This
one's got a little patch over some blue paint that someone had spilled on it as well. We couldn't get the blue paint off, so we just sewed a patch over the top.
So I am tempted to get Jo to have a go at my NDC trousers, which I've got, but I've only got one pair of those. And as I say, I don't like cutting up bits of history that often, but with these, because they're oversized to go over a uniform, I can wear a small, and small are really plentiful, as a jacket. Yeah. If I wanted to wear it as a proper Night Desert Parka with the liner in, I need a medium or a large.
That's a medium, and it's still massive. Yeah. Normally I take XXL, and this is a medium.
Yeah, like if I didn't have a spare damaged one, which is what we made mine out of, and you didn't have one that's paint stained anyway, I probably wouldn't have done it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but it was cool, isn't it? And they are functioning pretty much useless. Yeah. And they're actually, if you look at one of our previous night vision,
they don't protect you at all, do they?
They just go black.
Yeah.
In fact, they protect you so well they absorb all the light and then just go black. It's like a complete nightmare. and you just stand out anyway, like a completely black
I
shadow.
noticed as well, the other nice thing you've done with this is some of the spare fabric, you've made them into Velcro patches, so you can retain the cables on your night vision.
This
Indeed,
Gage.
that. It's one of those weird things that a lot of camos look quite cool when they contrast. I think that both Desert Night camo and multicam contrast really well, as does Woodland and DNC.
Yeah, so that's just a lanyard patch for this review coming soon of the Sightmark Wraith 4K. Yeah, I didn't want this to fall off in the woods, so
That makes perfect sense.
So we just quickly knocked up this little patch using some of this material. So, and because it was Desert Night camera, it seemed appropriate for some night vision devices. So have you got any kit with Soldier mods, or have you done any yourself? Let us know down in the comments.
Yeah, I mean, we've mainly looked at kind of NATO kind of kit today, but if anyone's interested, I've got oodles of Soviet stuff that's been hacked and cut we can look at in a future episode. So show us what you've got. Tell us in the comments if you've got any links to cool kit you've got on Instagram or something like that. Let us know.
Thanks for watching. AATV. I've been Tom Anvil Hibberd with Gareth Harvey, and we'll see you next time.